MSW Media.
News with swearing. Daily beans, daily beans. Daily beans, daily beans.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Beans for Thursday, October 30th, 2025. Today, I have more on the latest boat strikes killing civilians. 2 federal prosecutors have been put on leave at the direction of the White House because why? They wanted to hold January 6 rioters accountable for their ongoing criming. The White House fired the Arts Commission that was expected to review Trump construction projects. And Texas Supreme Court, they ruled that judges can refuse to marry same-sex couples. AG is going to be back with us tomorrow, so I'm your host, Dana Goldberg. Hey, everyone. It's Thursday. We have gotten over the hump of the week, the taint of the week, if you will, as my co-host and I like to say. AG is going to be back with us tomorrow. She's flying right now, ended her hopefully rejuvenating, refueling vacation. She deserves it. I don't know when she sleeps. She works incredibly hard, but I'm always just happier when she's here with me. So just come home already. Everyone misses you. All right? They miss you. Plus, hopefully later on, I get to read some good news about you because I asked for submissions. We'll see if the producers did what I asked them to do. I don't want to waste time. We've got 4 really big stories that I'm going to talk about right now. So why don't we just get into it? Let's hit the hot notes.
Hot notes.
Okay, everyone. First up from the New York Times. And AG and I talked a little bit about the additional boat strikes yesterday that killed 14 more people. And I have some more news about that. First of all, there were 4 boats involved in that strike. And this is a quote from Drunky Drunkerton. The 4 vessels were known by our intelligence apparatus, transiting along known narco-trafficking routes and carrying narcotics. That's from Pete Kegseth, if you hadn't guessed. He said that on a post on social media announcing the strikes and accompanied it with a video. He said 8 men were on the boats in the first strike, 4 men were on the boats in the second strike, and 3 men were on the boats that the third strike hit. Now, he didn't provide geographical details, which surprises me that they didn't just go on some fucking chat that he was in. All he said basically were the strikes took place in the Eastern Pacific. Well, after launching a series of strikes in the Caribbean near the coast of Venezuela, the Trump administration has more recently directed the U.S. military to strike boats in the Eastern Pacific off the coast of Colombia. So all that is happening. And at the same time, 2 Air Force B-1 bombers, from Texas, they flew off the coast of Venezuela in international airspace on Monday. This is what happened. The latest effort by the Trump administration to pressure the country's authoritarian president, Nicolas Maduro, to leave his nation. This is coming from 2 officials. That's what they said on Tuesday. Obviously, they discussed this with anonymity because no one's allowed apparently to talk about anything that's not approved. By the way, this was the second time in less than a week that the B-1s have flown such a mission. The long-range B-1 bombers, those are from Dyess Air Force Base in Abilene, Texas. They carry about 75,000 pounds of guided and unguided munitions. They are the largest non-nuclear payload of any aircraft in the Air Force arsenal. Well, earlier this month, at least 2 B-52 bombers from Louisiana, they flew over several hours of the Venezuela coast in international airspace in what one senior U.S. official called a show of force. The B-52s can carry dozens of precision-guided bombs. They're also a fantastic band that has many albums. You should check them out. They were big in the 80s. At roughly the same time, an elite Army Special Operations Aviation Unit conducted flights in the southern Caribbean Sea near the coast of Venezuela. The helicopters belonging to the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, they were flying training missions, not rehearsals for a possible military action inside Venezuela. This is all coming from military officials. I'm not sure how much we can trust of them, but the plans sound pretty just legit. Now, Kegseth has also ordered the deployment of the aircraft carrier Gerald R. Ford, as well as its accompanying warships and attack planes to waters off Latin America. Since late August, the U.S. military has deployed about 10,000 troops to the Caribbean, about half of them on 8 warships and half in Puerto Rico, for what the administration says is a counterterrorism and counter-narcotics mission. The Ford carries about 5,000 sailors and has more than 75 attack, surveillance, and support aircraft, including FA-18 fighters And I quote, "Those narco-terrorists have killed more Americans than Al-Qaeda, and they will be treated the same." I think that might be an exaggeration and just some made up, if you will, facts that they're trying to push as real. It sounds like bullshit that they have killed as many Americans as Al-Qaeda. I don't trust what this military Pete Hegseth ever puts out, by the way. A broad range of outside experts in laws governing the U.S. of armed force, they have said that the campaign is illegally, because the military is not permitted to deliberately target civilians. That's why we keep calling them civilians, because that's what they are. And by the way, they can't do that even if they're criminal suspects. They can't do that, targeting those civilians who are not directly participating in armed hostilities. But the Trump administration has asserted that the president has the power to determine, without any authorization from Congress, that drug cartels and those who work for them are the enemy combatants. Now, Donald has falsely asserted that each destroyed boat saves 25,000 lives. In reality, about 100,000 Americans die each year from drug overdoses, but most of those deaths are fentanyl, which comes from labs in Mexico. Okay, South America produces the cocaine. So, like I said, these reasons for bombing them seem fishy as hell. And they seem to continue. And I know that there are Republicans that are starting to break rank on here because they don't like what's going on. They actually have a problem with this. So hopefully it's going to continue to fracture the party within. But in the meantime, people are losing their lives and we have no idea if they're actually criminals or not. Speaking of criminals, Donald Trump, this one's from MSNBC. Too many of the people that he actually pardoned, those January 6 rioters, they have subsequent run-ins with the law since then, receiving presidential clemency. But there's one person that is more troubling. This is Taylor Taranto. He's an especially unsettling example of this phenomenon, of them being pardoned and then going to break a law. 2 years after joining the insurrectionist mob on January of 2021, Taranto was arrested again after he showed up with firearms near Barack Obama's house. As NBC News reported, investigators said they found 2 guns and hundreds of rounds of ammunition in Taranto's van, along with a machete, when he was arrested. That was all on his person or in his vehicle. Prosecutors alleged that Taranto repeatedly said that he was trying to get a shot and that he wanted to get a good angle on a shot. Trump's pardon of him and his January 6 crimes, they had nothing to do with these unrelated charges. And in May, Taranto was convicted of illegal possession of guns and ammunition. Well, in theory, the focus was then supposed to shift to sentencing. And this is where the headline comes in. In practice, the focus was instead shifted to prosecutors in this case. The federal prosecutors, these two, this is Carlos Valdivia and Samuel White, asked a federal judge to sentence Taranto to 27 months in prison. That, in and of itself, is unremarkable, okay? That's pretty normal. What proved far more significant was how the prosecutors asked for the sentence. In their legal filing, they said Taranto had been among the, quote, mob of rioters on January 6th. They also briefly noted that after the assault on the Capitol, Taranto returned to his home in the state of Washington, where he promoted conspiracy theories about the events of January 6th. As MSNBC reported, after using phrasing about January 6th that the president and his operation didn't approve of, the Trump Justice Department not only put Valdivia and White on leave, it also locked the line prosecutors out of devices and escorted them out of the U.S. Attorney's Office. This is such bullshit. MSNBC's Ken Delanian, he added to this story. He said, the news of this is reverberating around the Justice Department. It's another warning that you can't, as a prosecutor, tell what you believe is the truth about January 6th riot without having some sort of risk to your future or your job. I don't love that quote, telling what you believe is the truth. There's one fucking truth about January 6th, and I think everyone listening knows that. The broader DOJ purge has been underway for roughly 9 months, with Attorney General Pam Bondi and other Trump appointees punishing prosecutors for resisting politically motivated cases, for criticizing the president 8 years ago, while in private practice, and in one recent instance, even for urging government officials to comply with a court order. For that matter, the full list of prosecutors caught up in the purge of federal law enforcement because they worked on cases the president didn't like, it's been really difficult to keep up with. But the swift action against Valdivia and White opens a new chapter. Some prosecutors are being punished for writing a sentencing memo using accurate words and phrases that happen to be at odds with Trump's approved language, otherwise known as the lies around January 6th. The politicization of federal law enforcement is ongoing. It's getting worse. There's no reason to be optimistic, unfortunately, about this improving anytime soon. This is from the MSNBC article, and I have to agree. The capitulation, no one's holding these guys accountable for this. And the pushback isn't strong enough. And I think this is going to keep happening. But I also think that it's great when like Tish James and Comey comes back and said, that new prosecutor was legitimately appointed. This whole case is bullshit and should be thrown out. So at least that's happening there. The next story I have for you all is from the Washington Post. Now, we had talked about this because of the tearing down of the East Wing and the ballroom. The White House on Tuesday fired all 6 members of the Commission on Fine Arts. That is an independent federal agency that is expected to review some of the president's construction projects, including his planned Triumphal Arch. And the White House ballroom. And I quote, "On behalf of Donald J. Trump, I'm writing to inform you that your position as a member of the Commissions of Fine Arts is terminated, effective immediately." That, by the way, was an email reviewed by the Washington Post that was sent to one of the commissioners by a staffer in the White House Presidential Personnel Office. A fucking staffer. Nothing wrong with staffers, but now they have them doing their dirty work. The commission, which was established by Congress more than a century ago, it traditionally includes a mix of architects and urban planners. What it is, it's charged with providing advice to the president, Congress, and local government officials on design matters related to construction projects in the capital region. It focuses on government buildings, monuments, and memorials. White House officials, they have traditionally sought the agency's approval when they're going to do any major changes, or minor changes even, if it's the aesthetic. Now, Biden appointed the 6 sitting commissioners to a 4-year term, several of which would have been extended to 2028. Their termination comes as the White House gears up for several Trump construction projects, including that $300 million White House ballroom it seeks to install with the allies that have funded it. And of course, they want allies in this board now to review these plans. A White House official confirmed, by the way, that the Commission of Arts, the Fine Arts Commission members, they have been terminated. They are gone. And I quote, "We are prepared to appoint a new slate of members to the commission that are more aligned with President Trump's America First policies." America First, you guys just gave $40 fucking billion to Argentina. Of course, these people spoke on the condition of anonymity because they're not supposed to be talking about this either. Now, Bruce Becker. Bruce is an architect who was appointed to the commission last year, and he was one of the ones terminated Tuesday. He praised the work in an interview Tuesday night of this board. He said the agency plays an important role in shaping the way the public experiences our nation's capital and the historic buildings it contains, which serves as symbols of our democracy. The White House in July, they also fired Biden's appointees for the National Capital Planning Commission, and this will be important, another urban planning agency that is required to review external construction projects at the White House. This was in July, okay? So they knew this was coming. Trump allies now make up a majority of the 12-member board, including its chairman, that's Trump Staff Secretary Will Scharf. The White House has said it will soon send Trump's ballroom plans to the National Capital Planning Commission. I just want to point out they had not sent them to the fucking commission before they tore down the entire East Wing. No one saw those plans. That's why they're getting sued. Okay? That commission is going to decide whether to approve the new building. Now we're going to see an approval. Of course they're going to approve this. I don't even know if they have another choice. They've got all their lackeys in there. This is all for show. Trump's going to do whatever he wants to do regardless. White House officials previously declined to comment on whether they plan to also send the plans to the Commission of Fine Arts and whether approval from that agency was even necessary for the ballroom project to move forward. An official who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss this said all necessary agencies and entities who need to review the project were in the process of being consulted. It's just such a back way of saying, we're sending to this the people that are going to say yes, and the rest of them, we don't give a shit. The Commission of Fine Arts has traditionally reviewed and voted on major projects at the White House. Now, they approved tennis pavilion. I don't know if you remember that tennis pavilion project that was overseen by First Lady Melania Trump in 2019. It could be why we have that horrifying picture of Trump playing tennis. But Trump, he may sidestep its review of his ballroom. He may I'm going to put beans down that he's going to fucking sidestep the review. But they're saying he may sidestep the review, citing historical precedent and his desire to rush its construction. Architectural experts have already weighed in on this. During 1947, the battle with President Harry S. Truman. Now, Truman sought to add a balcony to the White House. CFA's then chairman said the panel could serve only in an advisory role to the president. Truman ultimately proceeded with his plans, setting up an example that Donald appears ready to follow. White House officials, however, are considering building the Ark on federal land. What that does is that it doesn't qualify for the same exemptions as the White House. As a result, some of the fired commissioners, those commissioners are the ones that were expected to play a role in reviewing that design. They would have had a say in whether or not that thing was going to get built, and they just fired all 5 of them. And they're going to put in the Trump loyalists that are going to decide whether he gets his little arch on federal land. It's just disgusting. They also said that they had expected to review Trump's ballroom plans, expressing concern that the president abruptly tore down the White House's East Wing last week without undergoing a review by the commission. And by the way, Trump also said previously he wasn't going to fucking touch the East Wing, and he lied again because when his lips move, he's lying. This is my frustration. This is such a historic place. AG and I talked about it. I've got a picture in front of the door where that bulldozer was plowing through. And being there and standing and being part of history and something that represents our democracy, and not just our democracy, a lot of what the women in our government, our first ladies have done. It's intentional. They know what they're doing. And this is the last quote from the story. He said, "Were it not for today's termination, CFA would look forward to a full review of the plans for the new structure that will replace the East Wing." That was from Becker, but Becker's no longer there. And I wish I was ending this section with good news, but I am not. So I am looking forward to reading yours after I bring you this next story. But it is very important, especially since the Supreme Court is going to be deciding whether they take up Kim Davis's fucking case on November 7th. This is from The Advocate. The Texas Supreme Court has ruled that state judges may decline to perform weddings, including same-sex marriages based on religious beliefs. Critics say the move could erode public confidence in the impartiality of the courts and chip away at the practical reach of marriage equality in Texas. The order was issued Friday. It adds a single but sweeping line to Canon 4 of the Texas Code of Judicial Conduct, and this is it. It is not a violation of these canons for a judge to publicly refrain from performing a wedding ceremony based upon a sincerely held religious belief. The amendment, signed by all 9 justices of the all-Republican court, took immediate effect. The justices ordered it to be published in the Texas Bar Journal and the Texas Register. The change follows years of quiet tension over the obligations of judges in states where local officials and clerks have occasionally resisted same-sex marriage rulings. Texas Fox affiliate KDFW reports that the issue gained traction after a Waco judge was publicly admonished in 2019 for refusing to perform same-sex marriages while continuing to officiate heterosexual ceremonies. That judge argued the state's code of conduct did not protect her religious beliefs. The new language now explicitly does. For civil rights advocates, the decision obviously represents a very troubling precedent. It suggests that the judge who swore to uphold the Constitution and apply the law equally may selectively refuse to serve certain citizens based on personal faith. Some advocates worry that allowing public officials to opt out of duties central to equality undermines the guarantees of Obergefell versus Hodges. As you know, that was a 2015 U.S. Supreme Court decision that made marriage equality the law of the land across the country. Josh Rovinger, he's the legal director for GLAD with 1A, GLAD Law. That's a Boston-based LGBTQ plus legal advocacy group. He told The Advocate that while the Texas court's move is significant, it reflects a broader legal trend rather than a singular break. He noted that in Obergefell and later cases such as Masterpiece Cake Shop and the 303 Creative, the U.S. Supreme Court has sought to balance, and I quote, the dignity of both same-sex couples and individuals with strong religious beliefs. Those decisions, he said, suggest that the court has tried to create frameworks in which marriage equality and religious liberty can coexist. From GLAD Law's perspective, Rovinger noted the two principles are not inherently incompatible. Well, Republicans in Texas they've gone to great lengths to undo LGBTQ plus rights in the state. Governor Greg Abbott signed a law in September barring transgender people from using bathrooms in state facilities. They're in line with their gender identity. And by the way, everyone, that law is going to open a Pandora's box of lawsuits. I guarantee you against this state, because you can now get arrested and fined if you're in the bathroom that they think doesn't coincide with your gender identity, which means butch lesbians, straight cis women who happen to look more masculine. I'm telling you, it's going to be the transgender community that is hurt the least by this, but they are being used as a pawn to make this law, and it is going to be widespread. And the misogyny that's going to take place is going to be off the charts. I promise you that. Mark my words, it's going to happen. Also in September, there was a professor fired, and the president of Texas A&M University resigned amid controversy over curriculum materials on LGBTQ plus topics. Texas has been a hotbed for this, and it's been a mess, but this court case is very troubling. We're obviously going to follow it. We're going to keep you updated on the Supreme Court arguments on November 7th. We'll touch on those. And it continues, but a lot of people are worried that this is the first little brick that's been taken out of this. So we'll keep you posted. And that story, everyone, and the 3 previous are the reason why I need your good news. So why don't we get to it? Let's take a break, and we'll be right back with the good news.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Everyone, I have been testing OneSkin on my face and my elbows, and honestly, I didn't think I was going to notice much of a difference. But now my skin feels softer, especially in those spots that are usually just kind of rough. I like that it does more than just moisturize. It feels like it improves my skin over time. And the routine is easy. It's a quick cleanse, you dry off, apply, and then go. We are loving OneSkin, and we want to thank them for sponsoring this episode. And we've got a discount for you. Go to oneskin.co and use code DailyBeans for 15% off. Now, every fall and winter, the seasons change. I can also feel my skin changing, not to mention all the stuff I'm dealing with menopause. The air gets harsher, and then suddenly the little signs of aging, they become much louder. My cheeks get drier, my neckline, a little less firm. I start just scrambling for products that can keep up. But this year, I decided to try OneSkin, and it feels like a really smart solution. They are the first skin longevity company, which instantly intrigued me. Their founders, by the way, women. All women with PhDs who actually studied how skin ages on a cellular level. They saw that most products, they only treat the surface, but OneSkin's patented OS1 peptide, it goes deeper to target senescent cells, which are responsible for those wrinkles, the elasticity loss, all those sort of crepey texture nobody asked for. Nobody wants that. I use their OS1 body on the areas that need extra love, like my arms and my chest, my neck. OS1 face day and night. It's fantastic. Feels so light. My skin feels smoother and more resilient than it did even just a few weeks ago. The formulas are dermatologist tested. They're safe for sensitive skin. Plus, they have real clinical data and thousands of glowing reviews to back them up. A simple routine that helps my skin look healthier as the seasons shift and other things shift. It makes all the difference. This season, don't just moisturize. Support your skin at a cellular level with OneSkin. For a limited time, you can try OneSkin with a 15% off using code DailyBeans at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with Daily Beans. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please help us and tell them the Daily Beans sent you. Try OneSkin today. All right, everyone, it's time for the good news.
Who likes good news? Everyone? Then good news, everyone!
Good news, good news.
Okay, everyone, if good news, confessions, corrections, idioms of the world, assholes of the Senate, and my God, there are many. We love the misheard lyrics, whoobies, shared swears, find the cat, what the mutt. AG and I are really bad at that, but we have so much fun doing it. A lot of you are very gracious, and you just give us complete creative authority to decide what it is with no answers. Remember, you can see the pod pics if you become a patron, and the pod pics, sometimes they just cleanse my soul. All right. And just a reminder, everyone, if you want to see the pod pics, become a patron. And you're going to want to become a patron anyway, maybe at even a $5 level, so you can participate in Allison and I's upcoming video podcast that we're going to be releasing to the world on December 1st, but just to the patrons at a $5 and above level on November 1st. You're going to have some input on that. So become a patron. The good news picks, they're the bottom of the show notes every time in the Patreon episode. That is just one of the perks of subscribing. Now, there's a link in the episode notes, or you can go to dailybeanspod.com. Daily Bean Pods, haha. We're not even going to edit that out. I want you to know I'm imperfect. dailybeanspod.com and click on good news. All right. So send us some stuff. It is our palate cleanser. We need it. All right, everyone. We're going to get started with a good trouble submission. This is a twofer, good news and good trouble. This is from Mickey, pronouns she and her. You may not be able to visit a detention center in San Antonio, but you can still do something to make a difference for our friends caught up in the immigration system there. Roca de Refugio, and this is a Mennonite church. It's inviting people to provide care packages for families who have a loved one in detention or in the deportation process. Possible items could include, for adults, cozy socks, cookies, hot chocolate, tea, mugs, candles, face masks, lotions, journals, and pens, notes of support, all of those things. For kids, think stuffed animals, cozy socks, soft blankets, candy, cookies, coloring books, notebooks, and pens, activity books. And you can do this with no or little English. See if you can find books that are in Spanish as well, okay? Now, we're going to have an email in the show notes, but this is where you're going to email Cheryl. It's administrator@mountainstatesmc.org. administrator@mountainstatesmc.org to request the name and info of the next family on the list, and you or a couple of your friends with you, you can send them some love. This is a fantastic good trouble and paying it forward. I really love this, Mickey. Thank you for starting us off today. All right, next up, we've got Alan, pronouns he and him. I just celebrated my 7th wedding anniversary with my wife, Alicia, the other day. In those 7 years, she has gone from being not registered to vote at all to now voting in every election and being the loudest voice at our local protests. She's a fierce defender of democracy and never backs down. I'm truly lucky to have her in my life. I've enclosed a picture of her at the last No Kings rally. Alan, your wife is beaming and she's beautiful, and her sign says, "Democracy needs your courage." I love stories like this, by the way, of people that maybe were just apathetic or not involved in politics, and suddenly they feel not only encouraged to vote, but like go above and beyond, advocate. It's awesome. Thank you so much for that, Alan. All right, next up is an anonymous federal worker. And I read this before when I was reviewing the good news. All the federal workers out there, especially the anonymous ones that are writing in, thank you. But also thank you for what you were doing and working. And this submission is another example of that. Hello, Beans Queens. I'm writing after listening to your story on Wednesday about the brave NOAA hurricane hunters. That's NOAA, by the way, and their aborted attempt to fly into Hurricane Melissa. As you pointed out, these pilots and scientists do a dangerous and extremely important job. They're collecting the data that inform accurate forecasts, which are critical to public safety. I'm thrilled that you highlighted their work, but I also want to point out an important unmentioned fact. Because of the federal shutdown, these NOAA officers and scientists are flying into a Category 5 hurricane while not being paid. There are so many federal workers who are doing their jobs behind the curtain of this shutdown, beyond TSA agents and air traffic controllers who are rightly receiving a lot of press. It's precisely because of these workers that the average American may not feel any impacts at all from the federal shutdown. This is a really good point. Please help spread the word when possible to remind the American public that there are lots of civil servants who are working hard behind the scenes to make sure critical services don't go down. A little more positive press may also help reverse the image this administration has been trying to paint of lazy, selfish, overpaid federal workforce. I'm over it. This is a really great submission. Anonymous, thank you. Pod Pet Tax, can you guess the breed? Yes, I can. I love Allison. I don't even need her. That's a Dalmatian. Thank you very much. I'm out. That's it. I'm out. This is such a beautiful dog. Even the Dalmatian is like, what the fuck? This is such a great picture. Thank you for that. And I would love, and Allison would love, any federal workers that are out there and you want to write in, talk about the job you're doing and how it keeps everything running that maybe aren't the ones we're highlighting, the TSA, all of these people, the NOAA pilots and scientists, write in. I would love to give more press to this. All right, next up, we've got Rachel, pronouns she and her. Hi, Allison and Dana. Back in 2016, I taught myself how to knit as a way to keep from doom scrolling for no particular reason. My favorite projects are these chunky, cozy blankets. I shy away from my hobby must be monetized mindset. I have gifted blankets to pretty much everyone I know, and they do take up a lot of space. So I figured, okay, I can sell a few. I opened a Spotify shop this summer. A Spotify? No, because that's not a thing. I opened a Shopify site. Everyone, I really do think I should get tested for dyslexia. I opened a Shopify site this summer, but have not felt super motivated to do any marketing. It never seems like the right time to say, hey, I know the world's a dumpster fire, but look, I made a thing. I also spend a lot of time looking at said dumpster fire and racking my brain to figure out what can I do about it. I live in a city of about 115,000 people, and 28% of my neighbors depend on SNAP. Holy shit, that's a big amount. Our local food bank, the Merrimack Valley Food Bank, is fantastic and well organized, and they will undoubtedly see increasing use in the coming days and weeks. I've decided to donate 100% of my cozy blanket profits to MVFB. Everyone listen to this. This is really important. This is such a generous offer and what they are doing. According to the MVFB website, we were talking about this food bank, a donation of $50 can provide 100 meals. My goal is to provide 1,000 meals by the end of the year. Okay. For Pod Pet Tax, I'm attaching a picture of my orange fur baby who inspired my store name, Sleepy Cat Knits. That's adorable. Sleepy Cat Knits. There's going to be a link in the show notes. So everyone who can afford it and knows they want to help in this way, go buy one of these blankets. Go buy them. They're beautiful. Rachel is donating all of the proceeds to this food bank. And this blanket is gorgeous and it's covering up the cutest kitty. This is really stunning work. We've got kids holding them because they're soft and they're cozy. Rachel, this is awesome. We're going to have a link in the show notes, Sleepy Cat Knits, and Rachel's going to be donating the proceeds to this food bank. This is fantastic. $50 feeds 100 families. My God. All right, next up we've got Babselle, pronouns she and her. Good morning, queens of the beans. Thank you for your daily podcast. I look forward to listening every day. It seems like we are inundated with chaos daily, and it's been really hard to keep a positive and hopeful outlook. Yes, it has. It's exhausting. Yes, it is. Isn't it? I appreciate that I can relax, catch the newest shit that our current administration is serving, and even giggle when I'm sitting with you two. I love the good trouble segment and agree that we genuinely need more of it. With that being said, I like to send a shout out to my daughter. My daughter is graduating from physician assistant, her PA school, and we are so proud of her. It's been a challenging couple of years, but she never slowed down. She just kept her head down and checked all the boxes along the way. She'll be graduating with honors, but hates being the center of attention. So when offered the opportunity to be recognized during the graduation ceremony, she declined. We are going to be traveling to her for the ceremony and will shower her with the love and accolades beyond the ceremony, but wanted her to get a little shout out from her extraordinarily proud Mombili. Girl power, that's what she says. Attached are pics of our two rescues, Maisie and Jack. Both had rough starts in life and have allowed us to show them love and have given it back to us tenfold. They're quirky and hilarious, making our days better by being part of our family. Enjoy your day, and I hope it's filled with quirky friends and giggles. This little Maisie and Jack are cute. I love those scruffy dogs like this. Thank you so much. Congratulations to your daughter, kicking ass. And congratulations on graduation. All right, next up is from Kate, pronouns she and her, from a longtime listener, patron, and local Democratic committee person. Good news, Pennsylvania beanies. It's time to vote. We have an election on November 4th, and every vote is crucial to retain our 3 Democratic Pennsylvania Supreme Court justices. Come out and vote or drop your mail-in ballot in the drop box. Vote yes to retain all of your judges to protect our rights. I am begging you. Don't sit this one out. Your vote can make all the difference. For my pod pet tax, here is Lightning the Wonder Chicken. She is pictured here recovering from surgery after she needed a full chicken hickory. I'm only laughing because I never envisioned this was necessary. She needed a full chicken hysterectomy after she became egg-bound following the trauma of a hawk attack. Jesus. She is now fully recovered and living her best clucking life in our backyard coop. This is so sweet. A little blanket over the chicken. I love these submissions. I love our good news. I love what the listeners are doing, whether they're getting out and voting or getting to a No Kings rally. They're knitting blankets that you can buy, and the money's going to be donated to a food pantry for those people that don't get their SNAP benefits on November 1st, because I don't see fucking Johnson doing his damn job and coming back to swear in the 218th vote to release the Epstein files. This is absurd. It's such a dereliction of his vow to do his damn job. He made an oath when he got sworn into Congress. It really pisses me off. And now I feel like I'm just yelling into a void by myself in a closet, which is where I record some of the time, everyone. Ironic, I know. But I'm looking forward to having Allison back, so I have someone to bullshit with. Thanks for trusting me with the wheel. I always appreciate it. And I always appreciate the comments on social media. Some of you guys go to my Instagram, you make comments there, and I just appreciate that you enjoy the podcast. So even when it's me solo. On that note, Allison will be back with me tomorrow. We'll be back in your ears on Thursday. Nope, tomorrow's Thursday. We'll be back in your ears Friday together. And of course, John Fugelsang will be with us on Friday. So make sure you are listening tomorrow when we record. And that is it. Please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, take care of the planet, take care of your mental health, and take care of your family. I've been DG, and them's the beans.
The Daily Beans is written and executive produced by Allison Gill, with additional research and reporting by Dana Goldberg. Sound design and editing is by Desiree McFarlane, with art and web design by Joel Reeder with Moxie Design Studios. Music for The Daily Beans is written and performed by They Might Be Giants, and the show is a proud member of the MSW Media Network, a collection of creator-owned podcasts dedicated to news, politics, and justice. For more information, please visit mswmedia.com.
MSW Media.